Mr. President, voters in Alaska may not know that when they voted in 2016 to create an opportunity for everyone to become an Alaska voter through permanent fund information, what that would mean to individual Alaskans or our state. I should have written an opposition piece and placed it in the paper with the concerns, but what I did was talk to others around me about the negative actions, the consequences that would happen if that initiative passed. Mr. President, it has passed, and I could have been more proactive and vocal in newspapers and otherwise, but if we all recall, we're running for election and busy with other things during November to sometimes take stands. I did go to a community council meeting and several public meetings and talk about those. But what I'd like to know, Woulda, today, is that Alaskans should be aware, as raised by the district from the senator from Wasilla, that there is a piece of paper in your mail that's fairly bland looking. It's vanilla, like a manila envelope color or lighter than that. And it says attention recipients, in not so attention recipient ways, in that it's black and it's just black. It's not reverse print. It's not anything else. It's just a piece of paper that you have an opportunity to say yes or no to, and most people might take it right to their circular file and throw it away thinking it's just another something from government that they're not interested in or don't have time to read thoroughly. But this particular piece of paper is going to, if you're a person that has been stalked, or if you're a person who is trying to remain anonymous, is going to provide to anyone for $20 in any state an opportunity to know where you live and to be able to know what precinct you vote in and how to reach you and contact you. Mr. President, the reason I stand here today is because I spoke in front of our State Affairs Committee about the problem that is coming square at us from a victim's perspective. Mr. President, there are people that don't want people to know their addresses, and we talked about raising that fee. I have a bill in my committee that I have not advanced that would raise the fee from $20 to a higher number so that outside agencies could not solicit our voters and mislead them in opportunities to change the way Alaskans do business. Because we do protect our environment, we do value personal privacy, and we care about all things Alaskan. Mr. President, the opt-out version is required. There's another bill in our body about voters' requirement, another version that came through our State Affairs Committee that is trying to impact change around this topic. Mr. President, voters in Alaska should beware. Their permanent fund application now is a direct connection to your voter registration application, and the data is going to be rich. Everyone is going to know where you're at, what community you're in, and be able to drive to that address. And unless you fill out this paperwork or unless you try to shield your physical address some way, it is now exposed whether you like it or not. Whatever you did with your original voter registration information is going to be changed if you don't fill out this form and tell them opt out of the voter registration record update. But then on top of that, if you actually didn't ever apply for whatever reason, and Mr. President, I have one of those reasons in my community, a family who had another family member that was stalking his wife. And they chose in Eagle River, Alaska, not to vote for multiple years because their voter record would draw a family member that had harassed his family for years. And they didn't want to do what some members in this body thought was the necessary step. They didn't want to report it to police. They didn't want to share that a family that they love, for the most part, had one individual, whether mentally ill or not, could not appropriately communicate with their family. They had to not register to vote to protect themselves. And I'll tell you what happened, Mr. President. They registered to vote. They wanted to get involved. Their right to vote had been impinged. They couldn't go forward because of our rules, because we were selling their data, because they had to provide information that would let this family member know where they're at. But they registered. They were not going to be denied any longer last year. Mr. President, a family member contacted them within 2 weeks for our $20, or I don't know if you can Google it and find it once they register, but or some other software platform like Bing or otherwise. Don't want to call out one over the other. They registered it and they're subject to that harassment yet once again, and they may or may not choose to depart our state or move from the current location. But I just want to put Alaskans on notice that this piece of paper is important. You need to read it, and you need to opt out if you're in fear for your life, if you are in fear that someone is looking for you, that you don't want to locate you, because if you applied for a permanent fund dividend, that record is going to be updated automatically unless you opt out. Thank you, Mr. President.